What's up? This is Dan Brew with Let's Real Talk. I'm really stoked. This is a cool session today. Today we're going to be interviewing a cool influencer. I'm excited. So Let's Real Talk is about connecting global cultures together and allowing us to actually see how they connect together in business, podcasting, and different ways that you can actually become a better business owner, a better human, and just really start understanding how to be your best self. So without further ado, AJ, introduce our amazing speaker today.
Today we have a very special guest, Armon Anderson. He helps people in finding their love over bitterness. He helps people in managing their relationships over a very nice period of time. Hi Armon, can you tell about yourself to our audience, what you do, where are you from?
Absolutely, Dan, AJ, I appreciate you both. Great to be here. I am 28 years old from Los Angeles, California. And as AJ said, I go by Mr. Self-Love. And I was grateful throughout many things that I'm sure we'll talk about here to find my self-love when I was 24. And now let people know that self-love is the cure to self-hate. It's the beginning of your self-healing, and it's the end of your self-destruction.
Yeah, powerful. Powerful. How did you get on this path? Because you just nail a lot with that. How did you actually switch into that mentality?
You know, it's funny because a lot of people sometimes look for credibility in a degree.
Yeah.
And I'm not against that by any means, but I think there's also something to be said about somebody who actually lives it and then becomes it. Because what better experience and teacher in life than having gone through something yourself and learned how to choose better instead of getting bitter. So to answer your question, I got involved in network marketing as a 12-year-old, which a lot of people will think of network marketing as products or services. But what it really meant for me was personal growth and development. Because if it wasn't for network marketing, I would have never even known there was a section in Barnes and Nobles called personal growth. And most people go through life and never even understand the concept of personal growth because you're taught to basically learn how to date and be great for somebody else or look a certain way, be a certain way so you can attract somebody else into your life. But you're rarely ever taught how to better yourself and work on yourself and love yourself first. Yeah. So then you can attract the same right outside of yourself. And so I went through the network marketing profession, which was a lot of personal growth. But my father left my family when I was 12. Wow. And he was an alcoholic, and I caught him cheating on my mom. And he's an amazing, amazing guy. It just goes to show when you don't know yourself and when you haven't healed your past, it's hard to ever move forward over a long period of time. And so when I share the story about my dad, people say, do you ever fear that it doesn't put him in a positive light? But it's not even about that. He's an amazing human being. He just never understood how to heal himself and heal the past. And I remember when I asked him a couple of years ago, I said, what was your childhood like? And I'll never forget, he started to shake. And at the time, he was in his early 50s. And to ask one question and to see him shiver. And I immediately shifted the conversation because he couldn't handle it. It just goes to show what can happen if you don't decide to heal what was so you can move forward. And yeah, go for it.
Generational healing.
Yeah.
Generational healing is really important because it comes from so far back. And then we, as our adult selves, have to stop blaming and stop saying it's their fault and say, like, how do I change what has been happening moving forward?
Yeah, Dan, I remember the day after he left and he never came back, I went into my closet and I was looking for like shoes, and I found a case of beer on the floor. And he probably thought that that was the kitchen when he was drunk and putting maybe beer in the kitchen, but it was my closet. And I wanted to rebel against, everybody because I was bitter. And I opened the beer And I'm not kidding. When I went to do this and drink the beer, before the beer went into my mouth, I had a vision of myself at 32. And it was like I was looking at myself right in front of me at 32. And I looked down and I saw like a spitting image of my two kids. Wow. And all of a sudden, I asked myself, is this where you break the cycle? Or is this where you choose bitterness and you repeat what was? Mm-hmm. And I chose better, which meant I put the beer down. And from 12 years old to 28 today, I've never drank in my life.
Wow, good for you.
And so it was a decision of wanting to break the cycle, not only for myself, but, you know, for the kids that I don't have yet, but soon.
Yeah, for sure. How did AJ and you guys meet? Because like, how did this translate into business where you're actually talking to AJ, who's awesome at what he does? And then how did that all happen?
Yeah, I was looking to hire AJ for his expertise and as amazing as he is, because I'm not gifted like that. So we connected on Facebook, and then he's got a heart of gold. He's connected you and I, Dan, and you know, forever grateful. It goes to show what can happen when you know, you look to build relationships and see how you can serve others. Yeah,
very cool, very, very cool. AJ, what are your thoughts? Any questions? Can you hear us, AJ? We lost him.
Hello.
No, you're good. You're good. So network marketing, walk me through what network marketing even is. Because like, I understand that you go out and reach people, but what is network marketing?
Yeah. You know, when I was introduced almost 17 years ago, I walked into a meeting and everyone was well dressed. Everyone looked happy. And this guy got on stage and he said, the first thing he said, you're only born with two fears.
Right.
And he says the fear of loud noise and the fear of falling. Every other fear you pick up from society. And that was true.
Wow.
But the second thing he said was, there's two ways you can make an income. One is transactional, where you trade hour for dollar. And the other is leveraged, or what they call residual income, how you can do something once and get paid over and over.
Right.
And I became obsessed, Dan, with the idea of how can you do something one time and get paid over and over again. And I'll never forget this guy who spoke that day. He gave a quote you might have heard of from J. Paul Getty, who has two museums down here in Los Angeles and Malibu. Mm-hmm. And J. Paul Getty said, I'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own efforts.
I love
and
that.
in network marketing, you know, don't get me wrong, there are companies that somebody starts in their garage to hurt people, which I wouldn't even call network marketing. I would call someone that has bad intentions.
Right.
But then there are companies who do it the right way with the right intention from the beginning. So that's that. But basically, in the company that my girlfriend and I now are involved in, it's nutrition. And basically through the referral of person-to-person marketing versus commercials, billboards, magazines, it's word-of-mouth marketing, which is still proven to be the #1 best way of marketing. And I think that's where our society is going, especially with the influencer world on social media, as I'm sure you see all over the place. But, you know, you can refer people to experience a product, experience personal growth, a community where, you know, Dan, people sometimes don't want to take that first step toward betterness, whether it's mindset, physical health, spiritual health, because they're alone. Mm-hmm. And so network marketing, the fact that you can get better and be around a community of people that are amazing, all doing it together, is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how you started this all, what made you start this all, and what is your main motive behind this self-love? What do you want to achieve with this self-love? How this thing come in your mind? What made you start this all? Because I see you create a lot of content on Instagram and you give the content for free. People love your content so much, they engage with your content. But what is your long term goal? How you started this all? How you do this all?
Yeah, it's a great question, and a lot of people in life, they look at somebody on a big stage and they look at them for where they are in that moment. But I'm always fascinated by what got somebody to make that decision to be who they are and just keep going. That's what I'm always fascinated to know. At 23, you know, I thought I was doing pretty good, and I happened to enter into a relationship where the girl ended up being abusive, not only verbally but physically. And it's not every day you hear about abuse from a woman to a man as much as we hear man to woman.
Right.
And it started off verbal, and you start, you know, when you don't love yourself, you start to think that's okay and you can fix them and it's going to get better. And so I became somebody that tried to fix this person. And over a year, everybody told me I should leave. I could do better. I don't deserve that. But the reality is, until you decide to move forward and want better for yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody's going to tell you until you're ready. And so it got down to the point, AJ, of 12 months in, and the last time I saw her, everybody told me not to go to this dinner with her. And I showed up, and we were in her car, and she had hit me so hard, my arm started to bleed. And I'll never forget, we were in her Prius. And if you know what a Prius Toyota is, it's small. And I looked at my arm, and it was like the worst moment because I couldn't believe I let myself get there. But it became the best moment because it was finally the moment where I saw myself for the first time. And what I mean by that is it was not about her, because I chose her 12 months previously to be in my life. And I allowed her to do that for 12 months. And it got to that point. And so I looked at myself, and she was hitting me 1,000 miles an hour, and she wouldn't let me leave her car. But I had this like sense of peace. It was like everything was in slow motion because I finally looked within and said, Armon, this is not about her. She may do this to any guy, but you don't need to be here anymore. And so I drove home last time I ever saw her. And that night I had a dream. And I woke up in cold sweats, like when you have the flu. And I woke up with this dream that I had of this guy saying in my sleep, in my dream, he said, because of everything you've gone through with this girl, you've now found your purpose. It's self-love, and you are going to be Mr. Self-Love for the rest of your life. And I woke up thinking, what? Yeah, I said, what was that dream? Because all I know is network marketing. I've been an entrepreneur. I obviously don't know much about self-love. If I was able to put myself in that position just a couple hours ago. But I went to Google that next morning. I typed in self-love, and Dan and AJ, I really found outside of whatever faith somebody believes in, the second most important thing in the world, which is loving yourself first.
That's really cool. It's an amazing story. So tell that what is your long-term goal with this self-love? What do you want to achieve, or what do you want to give people? As I see, you give really a good content, but what is main motive behind this all?
So that's a great question. The motive always is to speak, to write from my heart. I've never spoken with a presentation PowerPoint in my life. I've never written anything from having any objective of what's in it for me or attention. It's always been from what I've gone through in my own life, because in the culture that I was raised in, the Middle Eastern culture, vulnerability is seen as weakness. And I'll never forget when I went to my mom. I was 18 years old, AJ, and I love her. She's my best friend in this life. And I said, Mom, I think I need help. And she said, Armon, you're perfect. And I looked at her and I said, no, I really think I need help. And she said, therapists don't know anything. They have more problems than you. And that next morning, I went to therapy for the first time. And I attribute that decision big time as to why I got to this point, because it's okay to let somebody know and to share what's on your mind and your heart. And it doesn't mean you're weak. And so to wrap back around, AJ, to your question, we just finished writing and getting my first book published, which is titled Self-Loveology, like psychology, but self-loveology. And we don't know yet if they're going to release it October of this year or January of 2020. But the book is a lot of my story and the lessons that I learned from it, because I feel like a lot of people can relate to the things that I've gone through. And I'm grateful to have learned to keep going in life.
Very cool. What was the process of writing a book like?
Boy, the truth.
Yeah.
It was tough. I mean, Dan, everything from we wrote the first 6 chapters and then it disappeared for some reason, and we did it again. You know, it's overwhelming when you don't know what you don't know, and so every part of it, from writing it on a piece of paper to Microsoft Word, to getting a book editor that professionally could edit the book, to how much vulnerability do I want to put in the book of my real story, right? All this stuff. But at the end of the day, throughout that whole process, Dan, it really became, what if somebody is going through a breakup or was in an abusive relationship and is in the snow and rain heading to JFK to head back to the West Coast, and they're in the airport, and then they just see that book at the convenience store and they're able to pick it up and on the flight home realize that they're not alone. And I just
Wish you hit best-selling author with this book.
I appreciate that. Ultimately, I just believe so much that self-love can cure self-hate. My next post on Instagram that I haven't posted yet is, if you hate somebody, you yourself have self-hate.
So true.
And so, I would recommend whatever somebody who's listening or watching to this, whatever you have on your mind and whatever is your purpose or passion, do it, because the impact is far greater than you can ever imagine, versus the attention that sometimes it's so easy on social media to want to be seen in a certain way or get likes or comments or all these things that social media has kind of like, but continue doing it for the greater purpose, which is, lives being changed.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. How can our audience and the people who are watching this, how can they help you accomplish this mission? What are you looking for? What do you need?
I appreciate that so much, Dan. Ultimately, to share the content, I remind myself every day, even if one person hears the message, sees the post, I've done my job. Because, I think sometimes, and Dan, I don't know if you can relate to this with what you do and your background, it's so easy to sometimes want to stop because you think your audience has heard your message so many times that you want to deviate to something else. And I just keep reminding myself to keep going and producing the content every day, because it's going to relate to different people every day. You know what I mean? So, it's really everything that I produce on social media, to share it with someone that you might relate with, to tag somebody, because there's a lot more of the quiet people that are struggling internally without telling anybody than there is the person that is sharing it with somebody else.
That's really awesome thing you are doing. You are spreading very awesome positivity around the world. And we wish you a very success in your life with this self-love.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I think it's amazing. Yeah, it's really, really cool. So how would you like to support the listeners out there who want to help you as well? What is your plan to help them kind of accomplish these things? Last tips or just processes? Is it literally just buy your book and they're fixed? Or is it like, what's the process?
Like you can give some last minutes of the day of the interview, like some tips. What do you think that our viewer might be useful for our viewers? Like by using your tips, they can create change in their life, bring some more positivity and love in their life. Anything?
Yeah. So for people interested, I have one-on-one group coaching programs that are very in-depth, which goes deep into the inner work. Obviously, not a lot of time to talk about it here, but you can find me on social media, Mr. Self-Love. But in terms of tips, AJ, I would say, number one, take responsibility for your life. Meaning, we all go through things with our parents and our family, and we didn't have a choice of the family that we were born into. We have a choice of the family we create moving forward, right? Mm-hmm. So take accountability for your life, and instead of blaming other people, right, understand that you choose and you allow people, places, and things to be in your life. And once you take that responsibility, I promise you, it's a huge step forward. Number two, forgive. And it could be yourself first, and it could be somebody else. And let me explain. Every day that you hold a grudge and you don't forgive your mom, your dad, your sister, somebody who might have done you wrong, the forgiveness is for yourself, because we go to bed at night with our own insecurities and jealousy, right? You could hate somebody all day long and not forgive somebody, but you're basically putting toxicity in your body every day that you haven't released that yet. So imagine every day that you hold that within you, it's like you have a rug that goes from your bedroom to your living room, and every day that you don't forgive, you put a tennis ball underneath that rug. Well, for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's not going to be a major difference. But over 2, 3, 4 months, all of a sudden your rug is piling up to where you can't even walk over it without tripping on your way to the kitchen, right? And that's what's going to happen. You think you can get away with it, but over time, you're going to realize that we can't. You got to forgive yourself and you got to forgive somebody else, but that forgiveness is for yourself. And number three, and lastly, is nobody's perfect. We're all going through something. I don't care if someone tells me, well, Oprah Winfrey has all the money in the world. Just because someone has all the money in the world, everyone goes through something, no matter what it is. It could be the same, it could be different, but we're all working to better ourselves every single day. And the choice comes down to, what do you want for you, right? Don't think of anybody else. Your parents, who may think they know what's best for you, they want you to go to school, or they want you to do something that it's not in your heart. A lot of people are going to think and tell you that they know what's best for you. So if you don't know yourself, you will allow other people to dictate who you are and the direction of your life, which is a scary, scary thing. So take time to get to know yourself, right? Work on yourself every single day. It's like building a muscle in the gym, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but you work on yourself and you work on yourself. And so if somebody tells you who they want you to be, you just laugh, because you know who you are. So invest time. I call it investment hour. Dan and AJ, I'll say this lastly. I call it investment hour on social media every day. I put 1 hour a day into my body and into my mind, because if I don't do that, I find myself going backwards, which is not something I want to do in my own life. It's not what I preach, and I want to practice what I preach. So at least spend an hour on yourself, your mind, and your body every single day. I promise you, it'll do great things.
That's really cool and amazing, your tips. Thanks, Armon, for your time and for helping us, our audience. Anything, Dan, you want to say specifically?
Man, I appreciate it a lot. It's needed. It's an important
Yeah,
topic. And there's this spectrum between business and there's a lot of the hows and the technical stuff. And that's where AJ and I kind of really dive deep and we love that stuff. But there's this whole other side of your soul and your mind and your body and how your spirit fits together and all of it. And I love that you're able to like blend that piece because so many people just run the numbers and the business and the things and they forget this whole other side and they end up getting sick or they cope or they don't find happiness when they get the money. They don't find happiness when they get all this stuff. And I think it's so cool that you are blending these two together. And I wish you the best of luck. And I'm really excited because guess what? You're officially our first interviewer on Let's Real Talk.
Oh.
You killed it, man. It was awesome.
Yeah,
And I want to say one last thing. I want to thank you guys because if it wasn't for you guys and your vision to make this happen, then all the lives and the people that are going to see this, you know, this would have never happened in this lifetime. We would have never connected. You wouldn't have connected all these people to all of us. So I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for stepping up and showing up for the world.
Thank you so much, Armon. It's really a great pleasure to hear such words from you.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. If anyone wants to follow us, it's Let's Real Talk on YouTube. It's a YouTube channel. And if you want Facebook, it's Let's Real Talk Business. All right. We're coming at you once a week with a good podcast. And we'll have another interview. We've got a best-selling author and how to actually make your book sell as a best-selling author as well. So maybe, Armon, we need to introduce you to her and then make something happen.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. Have a great rest of your night.